Okay, good afternoon everyone. Welcome to this week's lecture. We're very pleased to welcome an architect from the Czech Republic, Tesař, and we're very pleased to be able to host his exhibition on Czech Housing. There's a tiny bit of that exhibition over at the School of Languages at Bristol University because they sort of set up this initiative, but they thought it would be much better to have the exhibition and the beautiful models in an architectural school. So have a real look at those. Jan has his own practice in Prague. And he teaches at the Technical Institute, teaches architecture, and he's also doing a PhD on this topic. So since this presentation, the exhibition, and what he's going to discuss is part of that. And we shall give him a very warm welcome and thank you for coming. So.
Thank you very much. It's a really big pleasure to be here in UB University and to tell you more about contemporary Czech family houses. Tell you something more what's really behind the posters you can see on the walls, because there are many interesting stories behind. And I'm so happy because I had the chance to visit a lot of that houses personally, to talk with the clients, to know more about the structure, and now I would like to share a few bit this information to you. I thank you very much to James and the people and his colleagues who organized that nice event, and please enjoy it. At the beginning, I would like to apologize for my English, as I'm not a native speaker. It can happen that I cannot express myself really precisely. So if you do not understand me, please do not hesitate to interrupt me and ask me what I actually wanted to say, and I will try it again to tell it to tell it better. Maybe. Thank you for introduction. I'll tell you a little bit more about myself, why I have chosen that topic to be a topic of my PhD studies. What you can see behind me is a family houses we designed together with my colleague Jan Stempel, who used to be my professor and a tutor of my diploma project at the Faculty of Architecture at the Czech Technical University in Prague. When I finished my studies, he asked me to join his practice, and we started as a stopped. We started as a Stempel Tesař architects, and as we are just a group of 2 architects, quite small practice, we mainly design small family houses, and we have been interested in family houses which are designed in Czech Republic generally. We were checking website of our colleagues. Most of the Czech architects are our friends, and after a few years we decided to not just to be interested in the topic, but do really real research about the topic. I decided to apply to be a PhD student at the Faculty of Architecture, and we have started out research with the supporting of our faculty, and our first book we published on the topic is called 99 Houses. Actually, it's a collection of 99 houses which was built and designed in Czech Republic in last decade, in last 10 years. And this book was specially for Czech architects, for their clients, and for the students of architecture too, because there is a pictures, there are images of the exterior and the interior of the houses, but there are layouts too on the same scale, 1 to 333. So you can compare the sizes, all the houses which are published in the book. Most of our colleagues at the university ask us why we have published the book just in Czech language, that it's a pity not to present our work abroad. So we said, okay, that's a great idea, but it's too many houses to show abroad. So we did another selection, and we prepared another book which is called Czech Houses. And it's a book, and based on that book we prepared that exhibition you can see outside the lecture hall. The houses which are published in that book, those the houses which was built in last 25 years. It means after the year 1989. It was the year when communism fell down, and there were extremely big changes in Czech Republic, social changes, political changes, and so we said it's a good, great starting point to start to choose the houses. And in 1993, maybe you know more than Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia, we were divided into 2 countries. So I'm going to talk just about the Czech Republic. So where we are, politically we used to be a part of Eastern Europe. Geographically, I would say we are in the middle. We are in the middle of the Europe. There are 2 centers of architecture in Czech Republic. One is the capital, where is a school of architecture at the faculty of at the Czech Technical University. There are also some academies of fine arts where you can study architecture too. So the biggest production of architecture is mainly in a capital. And if I ask you to tell me one of the most famous villas which was built in the 20th century, I guess somebody tell me that building which was built in Prague in 20s of the 20th century. It was designed by Adolf Loos, who is one of the most famous architects of the 20th century from Vienna. And the house is called Millerova Villa Miller. And then there is another center of architecture, I would say, in Czechia, and it's Brno. It's a smaller city. However, there is another jewel of architecture in the 20th century. And I guess everybody knows Villa Tugendhat, designed by Mies van der Rohe. So what we have in Czech Republic from the first part of the 20th century is such a big and heavy thing on the leg of Czech architects to produce something which could be such a great and such incredible how those two villas. Okay, let's back to the Prague. This is the biggest house in my presentation. There is a quite problem in Czech Republic to publish such an expensive houses. Just let you know, the cost of that building is approximately more than £2 million. And because there are very strict contracts between architects and those rich people not to publish their houses. So I know the other such an expensive houses, but they are not published and I can't present to you. Remember that house because I'll show you another house which was designed by the same architects who are called ALT Architekti. It's a group of 2 architects, around 40, with 5 employees. Quite small practice. And they did the smallest house in my presentation too, which actually fit the layout of the smallest house fit to the master bedroom of that house. Those 2 villas are built in the most expensive residential area, Praha Hanspalka. And these glazed facades are, there is an amazing view to the Prague Castle, the nicest view in Prague. The second house was built to sell it, and it was bought by the owner of a tiles company, the biggest one in Czech Republic. But there are no tiles in bathrooms. This is the house which was designed by the oldest lady. She's called the first lady of Czech architecture. Nowadays she's 86 years old. She still designs. She still teaches at the Faculty of Architecture, and I'm so happy that I can be her assistant. She's an emerite professor, so she has just 6 students to teach them the architecture. She has very special handwork, and he taught many generations of Czech architects. And actually, to see her buildings, you get a better feeling what's actually a typical for Czech architecture. One Czech theorist says that it's austerity, simplicity, just a basic volumes. I'll show you different houses in my presentation, and some of them doesn't look like this. But it's because just to show you the big diversity, and really what's typical for Czech architecture is the houses like this. This is the house which was designed on the border of a residential area with small residential villas, and the picture is made from the high block of flats, so it's on the border, and the design, because to keep a privacy for the clients, that's why they decided to design such a low house with a private atrium in the middle, and the shape of the atrium, based on that shape, then house is called ego. Many of the houses, the structure of the houses, most I'll show you on my presentation, most of them are made of concrete, which is very popular in Czech architecture nowadays. As I told you, that Czech architecture is pretty strict. This is an example of an architect who designed pretty expressive architecture. He works with the houses as with the sculptures, and the client found him especially for his handwork. It's the elder people, and it's very interesting to visit that house because it smells fantastically, because the client cook absinthe. Absinthe. The wife of the client, she's a painter, so you can see her studio, and she's from Switzerland. This house is made of concrete too, but to be honest, what you can see on facades, the concrete is just a cladding. It's not a wall which carry the house, because it is impossible in Czech climate. We have to calculate the temperature for inner space for 24 hours plus, and the external temperature has to be minus 25, which can happen a few days per year. So you have to put a lot of insulation to external constructions. This is the house which is just 1 kilometer far away from the Prague Castle, in an old residential area, medieval residential area in Prague. And the house is actually a restoration of an old part, and the owner, the client, is the architect at the same time, Jan Schindler. He has the biggest company, the biggest practice in Czech Republic, one of the biggest. He has around 30 employees, so he can afford a Porsche. It doesn't like this that all architects in Czech are pretty rich guys. It's not really not like this. You have to hard work to get some money, to be honest. So to design the glazing like this, it was actually forbidden to do it on the old part. That's why he decided to design an external living area, which is actually behind the big windows, and on the roof it's a parking. Again, made of concrete, inside, outside, and in the middle it's a sandwich, and in the middle there is a insulation. Let's move from the Prague. There is a ring around the Prague, which is very, very popular, mainly for quite rich people who used to work in Prague and live mainly in the southern part, where are very nice river valleys. One example of very expensive house. Again, the structure is made of concrete, with a cladding made of stone. Again, the sandwich construction. To be honest, for me, that building looks like in the interior like an administrative building. I do not like it. In the inside, yeah. What you can see is villa in the forest. Why is in the forest? Because it's built in Jevany, which is quite tiny, small village, pretty close to Prague. And one of the most famous Czech singer bought a villa on that village. So all the rich people, all the snobs came to Jevany and started to build their houses. But there were no plots, just because it is surrounded by the lakes and forests. So because they had the money, they started to build in the forest, with what is actually forbidden in Czech Republic. You have to be far away 25 meters at least from the forest borders. But if you have money, it works. Sorry? The name of the singer. Karel Gott. You know him? Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's famous in Germany. This is the villa which was designed by Ladislav Hlabus, who's actually nowadays a dean of Faculty of Architecture at Czech Technical University. So he's my boss. It's from the picture you can see what's really typical for his architecture. It's kind of poetism and smooth plasters. And there is another funny story on the last two houses I show you, and the previous one in a forest and this one, because Ladislav Hlabus built that house for a couple, and when we published the book Czech Houses, we decided to invite old clients of the houses to talk about the houses. not to leave just the architects to talk. And when I had a call with the lady from that house, she told me, I can't come. I said, why? What's the problem? Because in your presentation, in your selection, there is a house in Jevany. And what's the trouble? Because it's a house of my ex-husband. So she came and he didn't. I think on that house is visible that the Czech architect like Swiss architecture. It's our, I would say, Peter Zumthor, for instance, is a very popular architect in Czechia. The clients came after 10 years of living from Switzerland, so maybe that's why it looks like it's a little bit Swiss house. Again, a sandwich construction. It's made of concrete blocks, then insulation plus wooden cladding. This is the most conceptual house in my presentation. It was designed, it is made of 24 cubes, 3 by 3 by 3 meters, and each cube has its own function. One is entrance, one is bathroom, one is staircase, or some of them are connected to protect bigger living area. It's a steel structure and there are special sandwich panels. To be honest, this building has some troubles with the thin insulation, with the heat insulation, because it's not designed really precisely based on Czech rules. So it's called experiment house, and if you call something experiment house, it's not necessary to follow the rules. So it's, again, maybe you remember the black villas at the beginning of my presentation, the same architect, and the villa which is surrounded by the mass production in Czech Republic, which means purple, yellow, orange, small houses made of concrete bricks, not concrete, ceramic bricks, with a pitched roof, red roofs, and balustrades. That's the mass production, and you can buy the project for a few crowns from catalog. But this house was built first on that area, but unfortunately, what happened around, it's terrible. But it's not visible from the house, because the Stanislav Fiala, who's the author, is a pretty smart architect, and he told them it's extremely bad development. There are no streets. It's really just pieces of land, gutted pieces of land to produce low-cost houses. But because it was close to their hometown, they decided to really buy the land. So that's why he decided actually one inner space, which is surrounded by small rooms around with the different functions. A room for watching TV, a room for working, bedroom, and so on. One of the newest house which was built in Czechia and I have in my presentation is the house up on the lake, and you can see a really beauty of the nature where those houses are designed and built. This is one of the conceptual house designed by Jan Studený from KSA Architects Practice. Unfortunately, he passed away before he finished that house. But the client was very smart. He is a civil engineer, so he really followed ideas of David Kopecký and finished the house very very well, and it was nominated by the Czech Republic to Miss van der Rohe Award. This is the house which was built, I'm not sure precisely, approximately 15, 16 years ago. And this is the picture which was done a few years when it was finished, but it's still like this. And it's supposed to be covered by a greenery, but the greenery doesn't want to grow. And the client said that at least it's a home for many birds.
Excuse me. Sorry, do you mind if we just go back to the previous slide? No, the other one. This one. But yeah, the other one. Thank you.
Yeah, just about the images. If you are tired or fed up of my kidding, just enjoy the nice pictures. All of them are really professional sets of images of the architects done by professional photographers. And of course, they are under copyright. So.
Which means you need to buy Jan's book. We've got some copies.
Yeah, you can buy the book, special student price. Sorry?
There is a 50% reduction,
Those two houses, there is a nice story, because what's typical for Czech architecture is to buy a land and to, first of all, to build the fences. And owner of the land who built the first house with the wooden cladding was so happy with the design that he recommended the land and the architect to his friend. And that's why the next house has a similar basic form with the brick cladding designed by the same architect. And they joined gardens together without fences, which is really not common in Czech Republic. This house was designed next to Berounka River, in the valley of river, in the flooded area. That's why the land was pretty cheap. The other bad thing was that the plot is just 9 meter narrow, and there was a local rule, because it's a flooded area, to design living area just upstairs, just on the upper level. So at the end, the house is just 4 meters wide inside and 24 meters long. And what you can see downstairs, looks like it's a flat. Officially, in layouts for a municipality, it's a technical room, and nowadays it's a flat for a mother-in-law. The concept is, it was built as a wagon made of concrete bricks, and almost all inner spaces are divided just by furniture, which is painted by such a bright colors. This house, designed by my friends, they are old as me, pretty young architects. It's their first house they designed, and they are students by Alena Šrámková, to show you that many Czech architects was really her student. And Alena Šrámková again. This is the house she built for herself. It was 10 years ago, and she used the place where used to be a stable in the mansion of her family. And she was 76 years old when she finished the house. And she says that one must suffer for the architecture, and she does, because to keep one big open space, she designed, when she was 76 years old, her bathroom and toilet upstairs on the gallery without railing. This is the house which was designed and used by a couple of architects, Šárka and Marek Sodomkovi. Actually, it's a double house. The second part is for a sister of an architect. It was very cheap planned. It looks marvelous, but it was very cheap because it's a north plot. It's a slope to the north side, and was pretty hard to design to get the sun to the house. This is the southern facade.
What was the view?
The tube.
Rainwater downpipe is.
Yeah, because the picture is when the house is finished a few days, and I think they have not finished the piping yet. And this is the smallest house I was talking about. If you remember the first house in my presentation, all layout really fit to the master bedroom of the first house. What's interesting on that house is that it's made of prefabricated wooden panels. And prefabrication was very popular in architecture in Czechoslovakia in general. Mainly in 60s, 70s, and 80s, there were a lot of block of flats. All the block of flats was built made of concrete panels. And after 1990, all people were fed up of prefabrication. But nowadays, they recognize it's pretty cheap and simple and very fast way to build the houses. So prefabrication and coming back So again, prefabricated concrete panels. But wooden panels is another way how to prefabricate the houses. This house is made of wooden structure, and it was built by the clients by themselves. And there were many articles about that houses in the Czech newspapers, that it's a house which costs just 1 million crowns to get it's divided by 37 pounds and you get then the amount. That's not true, that's impossible, because the parents of the owner, they used to have a company to produce wooden timbers, so the price at the end for the other clients would be absolutely different. But since that time, a lot of people write down an email, could you design me the house which costs just 1 million crowns? And we says, no, it's impossible. Because most of the houses I'll show you, you can start to the cost, the lower level of the cost is 150 pounds, 150,000 pounds. It's a lower level. The average is approximately 250,000 pounds. And the most expensive are around about 2 million. This is another conceptual house designed by the same architects, like the house made of 24 cubes. This was an experiment too, because the surface of the floors is in the same angle as the external slope, and this surface works as a view to the very nice nature, which is actually protected area. So it took, and the thing on the corner over here, it's a master bedroom. It took 10 years to negotiate the house, and then 5 years to finish it. And during the time, the owner divorced. I don't know why. And he works as a psychologist. Or maybe it was a part of his research, maybe. This is a professor, Mr. Poole, from Hungarian Budapest University. And what you can see, it's impossible to walk in the house with socks. Western part of Czech Republic, if you remember the villa, which is called Ego, the same architects, actually they came from that part of Czech Republic, and this is one of the first houses they designed and built. And nowadays they have one of the biggest practice, 20 employees, and they are come back in Prague, of course. This is one of the smallest house. It was built in. It doesn't look like, but it was built in mountain area. And look at the layout, because the upper level is actually living area. It's because of to get some storage room for skis and that stuff, to have pretty close to the entrance. So they wanted to have one big living space. That's why they designed it on an upper level. And there is no necessary to have a big connection to the garden, because it's a weekend house, and you spend all the time walking in the nature or by skiing. So that's why you can't see terrace, for instance. North part of Czech Republic, north part of Bohemia. This is the oldest house which is in my presentation. It was built and designed in 1993, which means more or less 25 years ago. And that guys, 25 years ago, the architect Petr Suske came with the topic of ecology in architecture. And for him, ecology means to use local materials. That's why the structure is made of wooden beams, and it's covered by barns. The insulation is made of barns blocks. And it's called the house with umbrella, because the roof is in this. It's the same structure actually as an umbrella. Another house which is actually a weekend house in mountain area. It's a wooden structure with a steel cladding. It's pretty hard to keep it warm during the winter time, because you do not have any mess to keep temperature to. This is the house which we designed with my colleague in a protected area, which is called Czech Paradise. To translate, it's called Czech Paradise. And there are very strict rules how to design. You have to design small windows, and to design something like this was a quite hard find against the municipality. To have such a big glazing, to have such a big holes in the house, we had to find old vernacular architecture, local architecture, and show them that there used to be a big gate to the barns. And at the end we won, and we built a house like this. It's actually a double house. There is a part which is used by elder parents, and the second part is used by a young family, which actually nowadays used to live in Prague and use it as a weekend house. This is a typical architecture of that area, and architect tried to edit some modern parts, still to keep to be really how it used to be. And at the end, actually, it's a replica, because when they started building construction and all the works on the house, they recognized that it's in very bad condition, and they had to build it again. It doesn't look like, but it's reconstruction too. It used to be a small weekend house, which was changed onto a normally house for family. This house is designed by Schäfer Roskovec. That's the group of architects, and they are a construction company too. So they can afford pretty high quality details because they do it by themselves. But it's not common in Czech architecture. I mean, the connections that the architect is the owner of the construction company. This is the house for one of the most famous Czech director. And what's interesting that the architect is actually he didn't study Faculty of Architecture, because in Czech Republic there is it's divided. Architects study faculties of architecture, and the civil engineer studies faculty of civil engineering. And since that time, since it was divided in 70s, it's more or less the fightings against those two professions. And he studied the faculty of civil engineering and the program for architects. And nowadays he's a member of Czech Architects. So nowadays he's really architect and fight against civil engineers, because his details and his constructions are very smart and not common. This is a steel structure and many details to save the house to work properly. Ivan Kroupa is very famous Czech architect. He's author of a museum of contemporary art in Prague, and that's his handwork. It doesn't look like his family house, but it is. This house was built in mountain area, and as you can see on the section, the slope to compare, if you like skiing, you know what does it mean black slope. So it's like this. And because it's in a mountain area, there were many troubles with the melting snow, with the water. And the client wanted to have a house on one level. That it was decided to make a special steel structure and make really simple basement. And on that steel structure there is just a wooden cube, and it's connected through the concrete slab. Southern part of Czech Republic. This is the Martin Reinisch, who's actually the teacher of Kamila Amblerova. Maybe you remember the wooden house. The owner he writes articles about architecture. Journalist. Again, Luděk Riesner, the architect from the Faculty of Civil Engineering. He found a plot, he designed the house, he built it, and he wanted to sell it. But at the end, he fell in love and decided to use it for his family. And again, it's a kind of experiment, because I asked him if it works during the winter time, And he told me, yes, it works. I live in my flat and use it just during the summer times. I have to ask him again how it worked this summer because it was extremely hot, and I wonder how it worked the house more or less without insulation. This house was built in Litomyšl, which is amazing town in Czech Republic, because the municipality was so smart that every year there is a production of the highest level architecture. They have new churches, they have new swimming pools, and this is the son of the head of Litomyšl, the owner of the house. Another house in Litomyšl, and here you can see how architects design on the side where is such a strong connections to the other houses. So you can design a modern house in quite classical street. Brno is another center of architecture. There is a huge faculty of architecture, and this is the oven villa of one of their professor, Petr Pelčák. He built that house in 1996, so 20 years old house. And you can see very strong connection to the modern architecture of 30s. Villa Tugendhat is actually the first house which is visited by students of architecture in Brno. Again, Villa in Brno, you can see a little bit connections to the architecture of 30s too, but I think it's closer to the handwork of David Chipperfield. Very closer. Another professor from university in Brno. The plot was so small that to get some view, he decided to put a living area upstairs. And because he bought a land with already rough house, which was started to build, and there was just walls made of ceramic bricks and timbers, the structure of the roof. And he wanted to use maximum of the old house. That's why he decided to use the wooden timbers for the flat roof. This house is made of concrete. It's very typical for Makovsky and Partners architects. Actually, it's double house. One part is owned by the architects. He designed and built this for himself. And the walls are really made of just made of concrete, which is called liapor. It's a 60 centimeters wide wall, and it has characteristic to keep inner space in warm. It works, but it's very expensive and hard to find some construction company who is able to do it. When I visited the house, the architect wasn't at home, so I met just his wife and his children. And his children told me that we have made of concrete everything. Look at our table, and it can carry our father, and he's heavy more than 130 kilos. Another house in Brno. I think it's a little bit sculpture, but still you can see the connection to 30s. The client is actually a sister of the architect. This house is pretty new. It was finished 2 years ago. And this steel cladding used to be supposed to be a structure for a greenery. But because it is black, it doesn't work. So maybe it was fake to the client's wife. it was so small a plot that they decided to have inner atrium. Pavel Nasadil, you saw his house, the small one in the white one, which was built as a weekend house. This is another house which was designed with the small atriums to connect garden more to inner space. But it was kind of conceptual thinking about the layout, but he said it doesn't work as he supposed. This is the house from that region, which is the form and the concept came up from the local architecture, which used to be typical for that region. This is a very interesting, again, weekend house. It's on the side of old barn. The architect Kamil Mrva used old walls to carry a roof, and then there is a small wooden cube in the middle, and it works as a living area. This house was designed by Olgoy Horchor Architect Studio, and for me it's more design than architecture. And to be honest, Olgoy Horchor, they are very famous architects and designers too. If you check their websites, you can see designs of lights, glasses, pots. So for me, it's a different way of thinking about the architecture, not typical for Czech Republic. Another not really typical attitude to how to design houses in Czech Republic. This author used to call his houses by the names, for instance, mouse, bottle, and whatever. I think this is called a cake or something like, or the pillows. Pavel Míček is a young architect who used to work in an office in the practice of the previous one, and at the end absolutely different way of designing. I think closer to Alvaro Siza than to Svatopluk Sládeček. Thank you very much for your attention.
Probably got time for one question before we get. Oh, there's more than one question. The other thing we can do, of course, is ask questions of Jan at the exhibition, which is just outside. But I'll go for Suleiman. Actually, put his hand up just before you.
So I guess housing. You said about the issue being in the winter, so when it gets to -25. How do the houses work in the summer where it's in the 30s? Because all of them, they're very well insulated, but they have a lot of glass. So I can imagine that bringing a lot of sun into the house, which will make the house very warm on the inside.
Yeah.
So how do you design for both?
If you do good design, if you do insulation on the external construction, and it works during the summertime too. Yeah, you can see some troubles in a big glazing, but all the houses you saw has external sun blinds. And if you have aluminium external sun blinds, it really works. And the houses I visited, they have no air conditions at all. And my own experience is when I have visited some of our clients, how it works, our houses during such a hot summer it was this year. They were very happy that it works because of the sun blinds. And for instance, we had a new house which is designed with a pitched roof, and the roof is the cladding of the roof is made of black aluminium. So all roof black and it worked. It worked during the summertime because the sun blinds and also a very thick layer of insulation, which is in Czech Republic the standards nowadays is 20 centimeters start to be standards. When I started to design 10 years ago, it used to be 12 to 15, and nowadays the rules changed to be 20.
What did you mean by sandwich construction?
Sorry, I didn't get it.
What did you mean by, you said sandwich construction?
Sandwich construction. Yeah, as a sandwich. The layer of cladding, the layer of insulation, the layer of just empty space, and the construction layer. It's typical for the houses with cladding. So you have to design something which carry the house, then the layer of insulation, and then you can add some cladding.
I got 3 questions.
Okay, we'll have to take that outside and work out.
Okay, can I?
So if we can just, as a final thank you very much.